one area that I've delayed a little bit in discussing, and we're going to discuss it tonight, has to do with notes and their duration, time. And I would like to discuss time signatures tonight too. And I did for the last probably month, I've really kind of studied time signatures, looking for an easy way for us to discuss them. Because if you watch YouTube, you know this, Melody, you get a lot of different viewpoints and a lot of different ways people try to explain it. So I want to start with today, I'm going to start with just notes. There is no, we always talk about notes as far as their length and time, but there isn't any designated actual time in seconds as we know time.
Hey, James.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, since this can be recorded later, if you have like an instrument and like you could probably like, I don't know if you do or you don't, but if you could like play some of the notes that you refer to kind of make like that sound.
Right, and I wanted to, that was one of the things I was going to bring up right away, and it was, I talked to Shane, and Shane has got a piano, and he said that he would play some chords for me. Are you still up for that, Shane, tonight?
Sure.
Or some individual notes.
Okay, because you said chords, but chords are different than notes, right?
Right, and I'm going to discuss this tonight. So, and because I can do it on guitar, but I don't know how, and I'll try, I don't know how well everybody hears it.
I like the Shane and the piano.
Well, and that's why I kind of shied away from it.
Thank you, Shane.
Engineering-electric.com received one
Oh, that was me. Sorry, guys. So, let's wait for, are you in the game, Shane?
Alerts, James.
I'm here.
Okay. So, and I'll ask you to play something here pretty soon, but.
I'm sorry.
There's somebody's playing something right there.
Was that somebody's answer?
It was somebody's phone. Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was my phone.
No, that's right. Going back to our discussion, there is no really set value of how long a note really is played as far as seconds. I even looked it up. You know, I looked up how long is a beat, and it came back with, well, the average beat is about 2 minutes. Well, in today's lingo, a beat is referring to an actual song. You know, I was hoping to find something that would describe where they started with the actual duration in time of a note, but in a whole note. Okay. But what I've found that's important is, you know, we have a general feel for like a whole note, and everything's relative to that duration of a whole note. Now, whether that whole note is actually, you know, a half a second, you could play it for a half a second, and in your song, it would come out as being quite slow. But all notes are, you know, we have whole notes, we have half notes, we have quarter notes, we have eighth notes, 16th, even 32nds, 64th, and even 128 if you want to go that far. But they're all a division of the whole note, which is, if you think of it like a pizza, if you got 4 pieces of the pizza, those are quarter notes. If you got a half of the pizza, that's a half note, and so on. And so when we talk about these durations, really, they're all relative to one another in some fashion. It takes 2 half notes to equal a whole note. And you can kind of logic your way through it pretty easily with just some basic math skills of, okay, 2/2 equal 1, or 4/4 equals 1, or 8/8 equals 1, and so on. 16/16 equals 1. And it still follows pretty accurately with music. And so we want to be able to put into quantities so many of these notes, and then of course they repeat so many notes in a unit, and that unit in music we call a measure. And usually we'll have so many notes in that measure, and then it's a way to kind of divide up music, but it was more a visual technique, I think. And of course, we use it as visually impaired people, but it's a method of dividing up a piece of music. And of course, if you were to look at the visual representation, it actually, there's a staff which has, best way to describe it is like strings on a guitar, and the notes are placed on to this staff, and then there's what they call a bar, and it's just kind of like goes perpendicular to that staff, and that signifies that we're going to break up that piece. And you can probably guess already that a bar of music and a measure of music are identical. They're the same thing. And often they get referred to as a bar of music or a measure of music. And, usually in a song, we find that we often, we'll play some notes, and then we'll either repeat the notes, or we might play another set of notes and then come back and repeat the first notes. And then, of course, that could constitute the melody of the song. But all based, on these measures that have so many notes, but even more important, there is a pulse to every song. And we call that pulse the beat. And we have so many beats in every measure or bar of music. And most of us already know that just from little experience. We'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 beats as we hear songs, and we've done it in our music group. Even before we start a song, we'll say, let's count it in. That way everybody can kind of be in sync with the song. So it isn't, it's a way for us to divide a whole song up into pieces that we can manage. And I think that's really a key, that we can string a lot of notes together, but how can we put it in little sections that we call measures so that it flows well and it reads well for people that actually read music. And how we do that is it's all based on a beat. And I know most of you all are familiar with beats, and there are so many beats per measure, and that comes to time signatures. And I don't know, is everybody here familiar with time signatures? Have you heard the term before?
I've heard it before, but you can explain it again.
Yeah.
Well, on paper, a time signature is, it almost looks like a fraction. It looks like it's a number over a number, a numerator and a denominator, if you were to go there. Okay, and the top number,
Yeah, like the 2, 4,
like 2, 4,
yeah,
right?
4,
common,
4.
the most common time, and they actually call it common time, is 4/4. That means there's a 4 on the top and a 4 on the bottom. And many times you'll actually just see a C, the letter C, and they won't even show the 4/4 time signature. And what that stands for is 4 beats per measure, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. Well, the top number signifies how many beats in a measure, and the bottom number signifies what note gets 1 beat. So really, if you were to remove the top number and replace it by a 1, it's the number 1, you'd get 1/4. And if you do that in time signatures, that'll indicate to you what note gets 1 beat. And this is called metering. And you have a quarter note per beat. Okay? And this is called a simple meter. And I did a lot of research to figure out the best way to explain, because you have simple meters and you have compound meters. But a simple meter is if that top number is a 2, a 3, or a 4. That's it. Anything else you see in a time signature indicates a compound meter. So what's the difference? That's the real key when it comes to time signatures is, well, really, what's the difference between a compound meter and a simple meter? Can anybody tell me?
Yeah. When you usually count out a compound meter, you have to break it into subdivisions. I mean, like, for example, if you're going 7/4, I would count that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense?
Yes, and here's something that a lot of people don't know is that in a compound meter, we only talk about beats per measure in simple meter. 2, 3, and 4 on the top is considered simple meter. Once we get to compound meter, it's actually beat divisions. And there lies the mystery. Because you're thinking all along, and I believed it for myself for a long time too, that anytime I got a time signature, it meant how many beats per measure. But once you go over 3, or 4, once you go over 4, it's now beat divisions instead of beats. And what that means really is you come back and you ask the question, well, beat divisions, then what's the bottom number mean? That's actually how many, what note gets 1 beat division. But how many real beats are in like 5/4 timing or 6/8 timing? You would come and you'd say it reasons that it would be 6 beats and an 8th note receives a beat, but that's not true. It's actually 6 beat divisions, and an 8th note gets 1 beat division. And really, what you do is you divide that top number by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. There's 2 beats in that measure, and you get 3 notes, 3 8 notes per beat, or in 6/8. So see how easily you could get confused with time signatures. And so the key to remember here is that when you're talking about simple meter, that is 2 over anything 3 over anything, 4 over anything, and any number bigger than that, the first thing you do is you got to figure out how many 3s go into it. Like if you had 5-4 timing, you'd have 1 3, so you'd have a 3 and a 2. So you could have a 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Or if it was 7, say 7 over 4, how could you do it? You could do 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. Or
That sounds like a Tool song.
Exactly. It's a very popular timing for them. Money. Look at Money by Pink Floyd.
Yeah, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
King
That,
Crimson too. Yeah.
you count it out. It's actually 7 7/8 notes. It's 7/8 timing. If you do it in your head, you'll count out 7.
Okay, do that count again. The 7, 8. There's
For
1,
seven-
2.
So
Yeah.
in 7/8, you'd have 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, or you could have 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Dun 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 dun. That's actually 4, then 3.
So
Yeah,
does it
one-
matter if you go 1 2 3 or 1 2 3 4 or?
No, but it's got to add up to 7. So you could go 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, and that would still be 7/8 timing. So with that, with what we've just discussed, let's wind it back a little bit and just talk about simple meter. Let's take a timing like let's do 4/4. That means there's 4 beats in a measure. Quarter note receives 1 beat. So if I want to use 8th notes in 4/4 timing, how many 8th notes would I use?
8.
Mm-hmm. That's why you would
Exactly.
count.
How many 8th notes per beat?
2.
Exactly.
You would
What
count
about-
it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
All right.
Would you count it?
Which that works. That little trick works really well, right? And if I wanted to use 16th notes, what is it, Randy?
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and
No, you counted those in thirds. How about 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN? That's gonna be 16ths, right?
Yeah, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4.
You just
Yeah,
go faster, right?
But doesn't it go from quarters to eighths to 16ths, right?
Right, 2 8s
So
or 16.
if 1 and
1 and no, you well
those are 16ths, I thought.
1 E and
1 E and
I thought those were 30 seconds. But
no, those are
I could be wrong. Okay.
Okay,
So-
what's the E part? You lost me on the E part.
It's just
it's like you make noise for the beats.
It's a way to
Oh.
count. Like if you're playing drums or rhythms, you can
Without-
count it and you're giving it syllables for each fraction.
Okay. Okay.
so. But the important part to understand is that you can, you got 4 beats in this measure.
6:26 p.m. Try again. Up Davishal. Now. Claire.
I'm sorry. We thinking I cut everything off and okay.
Okay, so you have 4 beats in this measure, and how you divide it up, that's up to you. So you could play, for the first beat, you could play a quarter note. For the second beat, you could play 2 8 notes.
Alert, Juan Avila has left the meeting.
That's not me this time.
No, that wanted left. So,
Okay.
so how you divide up those 4 beats is up to you, but it has to work, right? It has to be a division that works. And you could divide it up any way you want, as long as you've divided up each beat correctly in the 4/4 time. So what if I were to do 3/4 time? First of all, how many beats per measure?
Three.
Three.
And what note gets a beat?
1, 2, and 3.
Should it be 2, 3, and 4? No.
What kind of note gets a single beat? Quarter note.
The quarter note.
Yep, right. So that's really the part that you kind of have to really think about, because you look at 3/4 timing, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. Well, as you know, tempo is how many beats per minute you're playing, which is usually a pretty big number, like 120 beats per minute. Well, if we did a little bit of math, that's actually 120 divided by 60. That gives us 2 seconds for that measure, right? For a whole measure, that's 2 seconds. Quarter note's still quarter note. What if I play it at, twice that, 240 beats per minute? I definitely sped it up, right? Well, the point here is that the beats happen faster. And they're happening faster, but our quarter note is still a division of that whole note we originally started with. And a half note is going to be twice as long as a quarter note. And an eighth note is going to be twice as fast as a quarter note. And a 16th note is going to be twice as fast as an eighth note. And that's the important part that we realize, is that if the reference is the time signature, then we look at it and say, okay, everything that we're going to play is going to be relative to a quarter note getting 1 beat in 3/4 timing. And I might not know exactly the duration of time that note is. I mean, you get a feel when you play an instrument. So, in fact, we got Shane here. Shane, let's first play a whole note.
Play a whole note?
Just play a C note, just one C note. Play 4 of them in 4/4 time. 1, 2.
Yeah, got it. 1 second. I got it. I had to move to the keyboard. All right, so that's middle C. And if I'm playing
You have a metronome?
in 4/4 time, I might play. Did you say 4/4 or 3/4?
4/4, but here's the thing. I said play a whole note. Well, what do you know right off the bat? You know that you're going to have a measure. You're going to play only one note. But
in order to establish the duration of the whole note?
Yeah. How many quarter notes equal a whole note?
4.
4.
So if you're in 4/4 time, how long would you sustain that whole note?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play 2.
You wouldn't go
2
like
bars.
1 and then 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You would play the note and count it out to 4. You'd sustain it for 4 counts. You go dun and count it out.
Yeah, you
So
go
what
1.
I'll do is I'll play alternating bars of 4 quarter notes followed by a whole note followed by 4 quarter notes. Make sense?
Perfect. Let's do that.
that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did it make
So
sense to you?
four quarters followed by a whole, 4 quarters followed by a whole, and back and forth. Did that make
Right.
sense, Melody?
Okay, yeah.
Do you
I
understand?
just realized Melody has the perfect name for this class.
She has the perfect melody.
Yeah, it never hit me before till now.
So what, here's the thing is that let's say we did something, you understood that, right, Melody? You understood that there's 4 quarter notes and you're in 4/4 timing and a quarter note gets 1 beat. So, and he had 4 beats and counted out 4. And so if he were to do it again, and this time we count it, let's try to count it with Shane, see if we can do it. If he plays the same thing, but when he hits that whole note, we're going to just continue counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and see, how it kind of fits. Can we do it one more time, Shane?
Sure. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's that relative, slicing up, making our notes fit into each measure. But you can get, what if I were to do it in 4/2 timing? What's wrong with that?
You can't put 4 half notes in a measure.
No, but the rules still stay, right? We got 4 beats per measure.
You're saying 4/2 time?
Yeah, 4/2 time. 4 beats.
Yeah, because what that would mean is there are 4 beats to the measure, and the half note gets the beat, but you can't put 4 half notes in a measure because that's double what you're allowed.
That's
Doesn't
right.
add up.
So you'd have to put because 2 half notes equals 1, 4 half notes equals 2. Because a half note gets a beat, right? And there's 4 beats in that measure. See, it doesn't work. That's why I brought it up, because it's one of those that, and I don't.
What you bring it up for if it doesn't work?
If you have a half note gets 1 beat, and you have 4, you got 4 half notes per measure, right? You with me so far?
Right.
4 half notes. A half note gets 1 beat. You got 4 beats per measure. You got 4 beats per measure. Well, if you count that out, how many half notes does that equal? It equals 4 half notes. And so that would be, no, that would work. You would. A half note gets 1 beat. You couldn't use, let's see, 1, 2. That'd be 2. You just divide it up the same. You always divide it up relative to the note that gets the beat. So if you had a half note gets 1 beat, that is also 2 quarter notes gets 1 beat. And then, of course, you go on to 8 notes. That means 4 8 notes. And 8 16 notes. But
should we try some other time signatures,
Yeah.
like 3/4, so we can compare?
So if we do, if we take let's look at the differences between 4/4, because 4/4 is common time, and we're used to counting it 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's actually do an example of 3/4 time, and then I want to compare that to 6/8 time. Okay,
Okay.
so in 3/4 time we have 3 beats per measure, and a quarter note receives 1 beat. Can you play some 3/4 for us, Shane?
Let's see. Sorry. As opposed to so 4/4. And then 3/4.
Can you hear that melody? Can you hear him? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to change it up a little bit. I want you to play that same timing, 3/4 timing, using 8th notes.
Let me think for a moment.
Okay.
So think of it this way, Shane. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and.
Hold on, I'm not quite getting it.
Sounds like a waltz.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean,
It is. That is
a waltz is 3/4.
3/4. Waltz is 3/4. But
tell me again what you wanted.
you're going to do, because 3/4 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you could easily play it in 8 notes. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. 1, 1, 2.
Oh, I see what
3.
you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah, the problem is I've got to have a tune in my head that fits that.
Pink Panther.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun,
Oh, I
dun, 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 dun. I'm not sure that's if it's in a division of 3, but yeah.
No, it's not.
Is that a common time song?
1, 2, 3, like that.
One and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 3. So basically,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
still has that
But
1,
now,
2, 3.
But now
feel.
you're talking 4/4.
No, I was talking 3/4 because you've got a 1 and 2 and 3 and. It's a 1 and 2 and 3 and, because you're playing your 3/4 timing, but because a quarter note gets
Oh, I
one,
see. I
gets one
see.
beat, you got to get 2 notes. 2 8th notes equals 1 beat. So I just played 8 notes. So that's a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and.
Yeah, gotcha. So
There you go.
let's see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, sorry.
No,
This is not my forte. Doing it from this angle, but yeah, I think you
so but
communicated what you were trying to say.
here's something that I'll make you all aware of. is that, and Randy, you and I got in this discussion a while ago, and that is, well, if you got 3/4 timing, and there is a quarter note receives 1 beat, that means 2 eighth notes would receive the beat, because we just we replaced the quarter note with 2 eighth notes, because we always balance, how many notes we're going to use per beat in our measure. So what happens when we change that to 6/8 timing? Really, more importantly, what is the difference?
You're dealing with 6/8 notes? I don't know.
Well,
and two beats.
Yeah, I mean, it's like earlier, the other song I was thinking was Satellite by Dave Matthews. It's dun, 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 dun.
Go back. Let's just look at these 2 time signatures. In 3/4, we count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if we count it out and that's for quarter notes. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, because it's 3/4.
And which is 3/4. But if we count it in 8 notes,
right,
it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1
and 2 and 3. Yeah.
So, and if you were to add up all those notes, you know how many notes you have there? You have 6. 1
Yes.
and 2 and 3 and total of 6.
Okay.
In 6/8 timing, you would be quick to say that there's 6 notes and they're 8 notes. And that is true. So how do we know if we're playing in 3/4 versus 6/8? Both have 6 notes. 6/8 notes.
Yeah, but isn't 3/4? Doesn't it indicate that you're playing quarter? You're counting as quarter notes.
Yes, but it's 3/4 timing. It doesn't mean we're counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're right there. And each 1 beat is equivalent. A quarter note gets a beat. Okay, and if you were to look at 6/8 timing, remember I said when we started this discussion, I said that once you go over 4, as far as your top number, you're now talking about compound metering.
Oh, so you had to divide it by 3?
So you really remember that top number in compound metering signifies not how many beats per measure. It signifies how many beat divisions per measure. But it really only has an eighth note gets the beat division, not the beat division. It's that added little word. And we break it up into groups of 3, as many as we can, of course, and then, if we have an even number, we can divide it how we want it. But you would have 6/8 notes. The difference being is how it's accented. And that's really the only way that you can tell between 6/8 and 3/4.
Yeah, you hear it on a hi-hat, man, in disco music. You hear it. I mean, Back in Black is played in 4/4. It's a real simple 4 and a 4 beat, and he's only hitting quarter notes on the hi-hat. But traditional disco music, you know what I mean? They're accenting.
And remember too that anytime you're looking at any time signature, the 1 beat is the strong beat, the first of that drumming that you're doing is the very first is hit hard, but you still those other rhythms are are weaker, or in your case, you're hitting a hi-hat, or because you're trying to keep the pulse of this song, the tempo of this song. But that's really how you tell. And one quick indicator is usually 3/4 time signatures. They're used for waltz, and most of the time, a lot of times they're in tempo, they're slower songs. But in comparing 3/4 versus 6/8, you have you would count it. You could count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you could count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You break it up into those groups of 3. So what do we do with as far as notes, and how this kind of stuff applies? You see that it's pretty easy to subdivide up a note with its other pieces. Like a quarter note is equivalent to 2 eighth notes. Do you see that, Melody? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm.
You get that? Well, what about a dotted quarter note? What's that equal to? Do you know? Have you ever heard that term?
I've seen him, yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Because there's a dotted and then there's 2 dotted too, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a dotted note. Really, it's the way they write in music. You have this problem because everything's divisible by 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's great for even numbers. What about odd? So a dotted quarter note is actually 3/8 notes. Because a quarter note equals 2 eighth notes. But what's half of a quarter note? It's an eighth note. And all the dot means is it's that plus the value of the note. So if you have a quarter
Okay,
note,
so say that again. A dotted quarter note equals
it's
what?
3/8 notes.
Because 3 is not divisible by 2.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a tape measure. It sounds like.
So you could do, let's say let's go back. Let's say we're in 4/4 timing, right? And I said the first beat, you could do a quarter note. There's 1 quarter note. Second beat, you could do 1 quarter note. But what if I said, well, how many eighth notes? You'd say, well, first beat, we'll use 2 eighth notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which is also 4 16th notes. But you can get a little crazy if you want to. If you used a dotted quarter note, then you would have exceeded the beat because 1 beat equals a quarter note. And you can't use a dotted quarter note because that would be 3/8 notes. And you know that for that first beat, your limit is 2 eighth notes. So you can't make that 3. But you could do a dotted eighth note, which would give you 3 16th notes. So you could do a dotted eighth note and a 16th note, and now you met the rules. You got enough to make 1 beat. Did I totally throw you?
Yes, but I'll go over it again. It has to sink in. Okay.
So really the thing to remember when you go back over it is that what the dot means. You're going to have to think about, how many notes fit in for the beat, right? But anytime you put that dot and say a dotted quarter note, that means a dotted quarter note, you're adding that note plus a half of it. So if you take a quarter and yet what's half of a quarter? It's an eighth note. So you got a quarter note plus an eighth note for the dotted quarter. No dot, just a quarter note. Dotted quarter note is quarter note plus an eighth note. Well, because you know a quarter note is worth 2 eighth notes, it really comes down to being a total of 3 eighth notes. And like I said, it's you do come across it in music, and you know, if you're playing in 8 notes, then you know it's a way to represent three of anything a different way, because most of the numbers are not easily divisible. Not all numbers are divisible by 2. But remember, the rules are still that you need to satisfy the notes that are within 1 beat. Whether it's whatever the timing, that tells you what the timing is. And I say the best way to kind of practice it and figure it out is common time, 4/4 timing. Because you know you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can play a mixture of quarter notes and half notes and you know eighth notes and things like that.
Mhm.
What do you think, Shane?
Hey there. Yeah, I muted myself for a minute. Yeah, I that's stuff that I'm familiar with, so I'm with you.
And it really it's something that I wanted to get, because our next lesson is we're really going into triads, and I knew that we did need to discuss this note stuff and measures and bars, but I would like to return to some of these time signatures after we get to some of these chords and triads, because I'd like to talk about some of the more complex timings that we can get away with, and we can play more with these time signatures. Hopefully by then I'll have our keyboard. It's supposed to show up on Friday. So we'll take. So how would you do? Let's try a good one. Let's do 12/8 time, or 9/8 timing. How would you break that up?
Well, there's different ways, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you can
3/3/3. I mean,
Yeah, you do it 3/3/3.
you do divisions
3/4/2.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We can do 4/3/2. We could go 4/2/2/2. Any idea what they actually would call 9/8 timing?
What was that question again?
Any idea of what they would actually call 9/8 timing?
No.
It's compound triple meter. Remember, if you have 6/8 timing, is actually how many times can you divide it by 3, right? How many times does the 3 go in? 6/8 is duple. Compound duple metering. And then if you go all the way up to 12, you divide 12 by 3, you get 4. It's quadruple.
Okay.
Just some of the fancy terms that they use. I mean, I've never played with anybody that shouted that out. So, but I never played like in marching band. But I know that the timing stuff is good stuff. And you can, as long as you break it up by threes, see how many threes you can fit in. And those are your most common. Your 5/8 and 7/8 timings are often referred to as odd timings, but they are still compound meters. You know, House of the Rising Sun. What timing do you think that is in, Randy?
I want to say 6/8, but I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. What?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's how I've always counted that song.
Hold on a sec.
I say it's 6/8, but it could be 3/4.
I think you're right.
I think it's 6/8 though.
I think it's 6/8.
Any new guesses?
Yeah, there's a little syncopation going on there. So
You are correct.
It sounds like
it is 6/8.
It is, yeah.
It is 6/8.
Okay.
So, I'll play something else. I want to see if you know what timing this one is.
And 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I mean, you can count it as 4, but you can count it 4. You can count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's Proud Mary. But
right. Survey says, Melody, what timing do you think that was in?
He just said 1 and 2. I can't.
If it was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and what timing would 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and be?
It would be the 4/4.
You got it.
No.
Yep, you're right. 1 and. So if it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, what notes? Obviously, I played chords, but they were in durations of some note. What note?
8 notes.
That's right.
8 notes. 8.
Note strums, right?
Yeah. So basically, 8 time.
Yes.
yeah, but you don't say that. You reduce it down to 4/4, right?
Exactly. If I'm in 4/4 timing, and I'm playing 8 notes, we know we just went from a 1, 2, 3, 4 to a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the and were my upstrokes, right?
Yeah, but even what Shane said, because when I first counted it, that's how I counted it as 8/8. But you just
But a good way to to figure out timing of things, you can do that. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, there's 16 notes. Well, I guarantee it's not going to be more than likely something over 16. More likely it's, it could be 4/4, and I'm playing a lot of 16 notes to fit it all in, right? So, but that account of the total number of notes a lot of times will give you a good idea of, it's going to break down. If it's in 8 notes and you got 2 of them, per beat, that's a 4/4 type of timing. If there's, 4 16th notes per beat, it's still 4/4 timing. Now, like that, I don't think I remember how to play money.
Dun, dun, boom, ba-da-dum, boom, boom, boom.
Is that money?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in
7.
timing.
Yeah.
And that's a good example. And just because it you're not always coming in on that very first beat can be misleading of timing sometimes. You know what I mean? Let me put this down. All right. Well, I think we did good tonight on covering that. Like I said, I would like to do once we do a few from here on out. We'll always play with timing because I think it's a really important part. And I know we've all gotten a little crazy in when we play together with timing stuff. And so I think as we go into the triads, when we discuss more into circle of fifths and all the extra chord extensions and things like that, I'm going to try to do examples that have where we're always keeping our ears to timing of it, because I think it helps me too. I think it helps all of us.
Indeed.
Any questions?
When are we going to meet again?
15th. The 15th.
Yep.
Okay.